we'll do the live thing first. Like, hey everybody, welcome back to the Bigmark podcast. It's me, your host, Bigmark. If it's your first time joining us, welcome. If it's not, welcome back. Like I always say, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell if you're watching on YouTube so you know when our next video comes out. You can support the podcast at our Patreon at patreon.com/thebigmarkpodcast. Follow us on Instagram.com, I guess, /thebigmark. But anyway, check us out on Instagram at thebigmarkpod, and then on Twitter at thebigmarkpodcast. There's lots of stuff you can follow along, make comments, let us know what kind of episodes you want to hear, all that kind of good stuff. Let us know how we're doing, and if you have a chance to rate the podcast, give us a rating, whatever you feel. Hopefully 5. So today, I was kind of thinking on what I want to do for the podcast, and these solo ones are tons of fun, and I always say that, and it's like I like to talk about things that are a little bit more, broad, and maybe something that I feel like I'm interested in that maybe others will be a little bit more interested in. And when I started the podcast, I didn't necessarily want this to be about me. Really, I wanted more guests than anything, but as things change and things morph, and I kind of like the little bit of a kind of balance or if you will, between the two. But, like I said, I want to kind of go a little bit deeper into, some stuff in my life that, will give everyone listening and watching a little bit more info, but, also, kind of bring people together. And, COVID was really tough on musicians. I want to talk kind of about my musical journey, and, a lot of bands have always kind of come and gone, and it's really sad to see, what COVID's done to the music industry, what's happened to the music industry, and even in the last 10 years or so with streaming and all this other new stuff. And, even before, like, I'm old enough to remember LimeWire, and, I wasn't really downloading songs with it, but Napster and that whole thing, I was hearing about all that stuff happening. And unfortunately, ever since then, being a professional musician has become all that much harder. I don't think it was ever easy. I think it's one of the hardest things you can ever do is being in a band with people. It's a creative endeavor. It's like if there's 5 people in a band, it's like a 5-way marriage where everyone wants to be happy and everyone needs to compromise. And, that's difficult when you have big personalities and big egos and talent that is undeniable. And, people, I think it was Timothy B. Schmidt from the Eagles said, bands don't really break, bands don't fail, they just break up. And, unfortunately, my story today is kind of one of the same, but there's a glimmer of hope, I was just jamming with some of the boys. Shout out Luke, shout out Adam, shout out Ty. And, it's been since I played with a band, shout out John Harley, we've been doing our little thing, which has been tons of fun. The two of us, him on violin and myself on guitar, and, with the band, I was playing bass in the band that I'd played in the past couple of years, so hadn't really got a chance to play a lot of guitar, and I didn't really get a chance to sing, so I've been singing, John and I, both of us, and it's been tons of fun. But I haven't played like with a real band. I haven't played like bass like for real in a long time, so it was really exciting to get together with the boys in Luke's new place, and it sparked something in me that, I kind of forgot about maybe a little bit. And, I was really rusty, but again, still tons of fun. And there's just something really special about playing in a band. And, I'll probably save maybe some of my earlier influences and just generally speaking, my musical kind of journey, if you will. I'll kind of keep that for another podcast maybe, but this one specifically is about a couple bands that I was in, but more so just music over the past couple years. And music has always kind of been there for me. I basically learned playing guitar when I was about 9, and then I was in the jazz band in high school and took music class and stuff as a brief history. But it was never really something that I really want, like, of course it's something that you want to do, but it was never really something where I was like, I'm going to be a musician. I'm going to be a famous rock and roll star. I always wanted to. Again, high school bands, I wanted to get stuff going in university, but it was more like, I guess, like more like hobby-esque kind of stuff. But I guess it was between my third and fourth year, I was working a summer job for Coca-Cola. Shout out Coca-Cola. And I met my buddy Luke there, and he was working there as well, same job. And he was at school at the University of Guelph. I was still at school at Western, and we got to chatting, obviously, and we always kind of mentioned that we both played instruments. He was a drummer, and I was like, yeah, I can play guitar and bass, like whatever we want to do, I can play. Because he was like, oh, I have a buddy who plays guitar. And I was like, oh, great, that's awesome. Like, let's get together to jam. And it basically took us to like the last week before we went back to school to actually get together and jam. But me, myself, and our buddy Adam, who was Luke's friend who plays guitar, kind of had like basically instant chemistry when we were jamming. I mean, apart from what I learned in the jazz band in high school, I was more or less self-taught on guitar, and then bass I was just kind of figuring out from what I knew about guitar. Adam basically self-taught himself, and same with Luke. And Luke was a little bit newer to drums. Adam had been playing guitar for a while, and I think he had recorded a song. But again, just kind of instant chemistry. So then the next summer we come back from school. Luke's still working at Coke. I had a different job, but we like just started jamming together because it was tons of fun. And, we were just thinking about playing some covers and stuff and doing things like that. And then our buddy, I guess, hopefully I don't screw up the timeline more than this today, but at one point my buddy Matt Bonjay, shout out Matt Bonjay, asked us to play a show with them, with Guru Jambalaya, shout out Matt Duel. And it was so much fun. We played like 5 songs. I sang, Adam sang. We played at the Corktown in Hamilton. It was just like a shit ton of fun. We're like, let's keep going with this. Like, this is great. But we need a lead singer because honestly, playing bass and singing is hard for me. And I'm not like a trained singer. I don't really know what I'm doing. Certain registers, I think I sound like shit. Sometimes I think I can kind of figure it out, but it has to be specific songs. And then Adam and I basically both wanted to kind of focus more on our instruments. So we wanted to get a singer. So we kind of looked far and wide. Adam and Luke had a buddy that kind of wanted to sing for us, and then he wasn't able to because he moved away. And then Adam and Luke went to the same high school here in Hamilton, and there was another kid who was in between, like a little bit older than them, but went to the same high school, and he was doing like some singer-songwriter type stuff. And I guess Adam heard through the grapevine that he was looking for a band. Tremendous. So our buddy Alex kind of had a project going already with his dad as his manager kind of thing. And then he had another buddy, John Harley, who's who I've mentioned before, he's been on the podcast. We love him. Him and John were kind of doing something already. They kind of had their irons in the fire, and then we were kind of going to be coming on to that project. Awesome. Little bit of I wouldn't call it a full-on like probationary period, but just like getting to know each other, make sure things work. Obviously, if we're going to work together, hopefully we like each other. And then obviously we had to make sure the music was good too. So we started jamming, played our first show at Guelph University. We had barely even met Alex, and we just went out there and friggin' learned his songs from recordings and then just went out and jammed, and it was like, woo. Shout out my boy Willie Giddens. He was at the show, and we asked him his honest opinion of the show, and it wasn't great. It wasn't a rave review. Thank you for being honest, brother. We totally agree. It wasn't so hot, but there was room for improvement. Anyway, we kept going. John Harley kind of came into the mix a little bit more, and we were playing tunes. It was great. It wasn't like awesome, and personalities kind of do flair, and it's always difficult working with family members, like as far as Alex's dad helping out with the management. Sometimes the hardest part with music is that if you want to do it especially if you want to do it for a living, unfortunately there's going to be the art and the business are going to kind of clash. And let's just put it this way, our manager kind of had a little bit more of an old school approach, which works in certain circumstances, but we were just so green. My personal opinion was we should have just been out playing shows, playing and playing and playing. But our general band approach was kind of hold back the product, don't give everything at once, which is okay, again, with, actual like goods and services. Maybe not so much with musicians, especially budding musicians. But again, that's the way I felt. But at the same time, I was happy that we were just playing at all. Our first show was like to over 400 people. We basically treated it like a stag and doe. Everyone and our parents were selling tickets, and it was a shit ton of fun. We played a bunch of shows, Pittsburgh, out east, Inverness. Shout out Mike Dismasic and family out in Inverness, Cape Breton there. What else? Yeah, lots of great experiences, honestly. It's, to me, being on stage is liberating. It's free. It's one of the more comfortable places I've ever felt myself. I mean, playing sports, you get to play on some big stages, as they call them, pun intended. But, there's something different about playing sports because you can kind of like block out the crowd, especially in football. Like, I mean, basketball, the crowd doesn't really matter, but in football, if the crowd's loud enough, like you can hear them and you can't hear your quarterback, like it can be crazy when the crowd gets into it. But again, certain basketball, games I've played, you kind of tend to almost blank out the crowd. But when you're playing music, you're playing to this crowd, you're trying to get them going. I'm the bass player, so, a lot of the stuff that people are kind of grooving to is what I'm doing. So what I kind of brought to my performance was I want to show people like kind of how to move to things. And, I really moved a lot, as much as I could, depending on the size of the stage. But, I loved it. I loved moving around, loved playing to the audience, loved doing all my thing. I never really got to do crazy bass solos or anything even that funky, but I love to give it my all. I love to leave it all out there. I wanted to, completely, again, leave everything out on the stage, give everything I had to the audience. So it was great when we did play, but again, I wish we just kept playing and playing, because I think I've made connections with this before, but not in every aspect, but sports and music are similar. They're not perfect analogies, but again, sports, especially a team sport, you're in a band with multiple people. Same with a team with multiple people. You're all doing the same thing at the same time, going for the same goal. Each one of you has a specific job that's being done that has to be done at a certain time and a certain period, just like sports. And like football, for instance, there's a lot of people that have different roles that are all playing at the same time with going for that same outcome. Obviously you practice and you rehearse and you do all that stuff. The problem is that essentially with music and sport, that where it kind of branches off, is that you can have games and you can have championship games in sport, And then you can have shows, and then you can have like really important shows. So honestly, in my opinion, every show is important. But at the same time, when you're playing lower level sport shows, they're almost like a higher level of practice. It's almost like full speed scrimmages are kind of like little shows. And then the big shows are kind of like big shows. I mean, yeah, if we played like Carnegie fucking Hall or like Madison Square Garden, that's a motherfucking championship. So again, as a budding band, you're going to be doing a lot of practicing, and that's not just rehearsing. Rehearsing is one thing, honestly. Even that's where it's not even the same as sport. Practicing is one thing. Practicing for your sport, you're basically getting things ready, obviously. With rehearsal, you're going through something you already know. To me, where you get the most quote unquote practice, where you get the most actually learning experience, education, feedback on your craft, is actually doing it live. It's funny, Joe Rogan always talks about, the art of stand-up comedy, and he always says, musicians can write a song in their basement by themselves with just a guitar, no audience, and it's probably going to sound pretty good. A comedian can't really do that. He can't just say, oh, this is funny, write it in his head, and then tell the joke, and it's going to be perfect. They have to go out and tell the joke. They have to work the material. They have to go in front of people, big audiences, small audience, and fucking bomb sometimes, but that's how you learn. And I think Joe is half right in the sense that musicians kind of have to do that too. Maybe it's a little with a little bit less consequence than stand-up comedians. But again, I think getting out there and honing your craft on stage is way more important than just fucking rehearsing in your buddy's basement, away from everyone, because that's easy. You got to kind of up the ante sometimes, and that's going to make you better. Yeah, maybe some people have performance anxieties and stuff, but David Goggins says the mind is calloused by repetition. You got to keep going, and it's going to strengthen your mind, and then all of a sudden you won't even feel it anymore. So the thing is, though, you also do get some of that feedback from the crowd. Like, worst case Ontario, they're going to boo you if it's really shitty, or no one's going to clap. But one of the worst things ever is when people start talking in the middle of your song. That's a pretty big fucking indication that something needs to change. And, who knows how that's supposed to change, but that's where the artist comes in. That's where you come in and go, oh, okay, this is how we should change that. Oh, maybe this is a little bit dull. This is where people started talking. Maybe we need to axe this one verse. All this stuff, you can get this info from playing and playing and playing. And playing to strangers, of course, too. One of our big pitfalls was, always having our friends and family kind of come out, and God bless them. Thank you so much, everyone who's listening, for coming. We love you. We want you at every show, but at the same time, we don't want to burn you guys out. We don't want to keep asking you for the same thing. And then at the same time, strangers are going to tell us what they think too. God bless our family, but obviously they're going to be a little bit biased. So anyway, so we're playing shows and stuff, and it's kind of like, I think around this time, it's probably like December 2019. At this point, we've been together for like 3 years. Actually at least a half a year before that. So it was the 5 of us rocking, and then Adam's girlfriend, who's a tremendous singer. She went to school, Randolph, I believe, in Toronto. Learned to, triple threat kind of singing, dancing, acting, knew her theory, knew all that stuff, really talented. Adam asked her to come and join the band and kind of add a little bit extra to what we were already doing, which is great. Sorry. Hair's fucking pissing me off. And it's always difficult, and Adam was really upfront and asked everyone if we'd be on board. And it's always difficult working with a partner, loved one, because obviously if you live together, it's hard to kind of not bring things home and not continue to talk, especially when you're passionate about it. Things just kind of weren't really working out between her and our lead singer, Alex. Her name's Katie, I mentioned. Between Katie and Alex, they weren't really getting along as much, because it was hard to define the lead singer, slash, like, because they wanted to split. We kind of saw it as they were going to split the lead singing and kind of switch verses, but I don't know if that was ever really established. It was messy. We recorded some songs, and then we essentially kind of wanted to re-examine how we were kind of being treated in the band. And because kind of up until that point we kind of didn't really feel, when we first started and we were kind of just getting to know each other, we knew we weren't going to be able to have a lot of, say in different decisions with the band. But, after 3 years, we're thinking, all right, let's kind of like get things back into playing field. We were talking about, let's start doing some more stuff. Let's even things out a little bit. And then we were gonna kind of like bring that to the table. And then our manager kind of asked us to kind of pitch in, to kind of to reinvest some money that we kind of didn't have. So the decision was pretty easy. So that was unfortunate. We had to kind of split off from the band, which was really sad. But myself, Luke, Adam, and Katie wanted to start something. So we kind of broke off, started doing our own thing, started writing some songs. It was really fun. Then kind of came choosing a name, which is honestly the hardest thing in the world to do. There's so many band names out there. So many band names already taken. So many names that would be good band names that are already taken by other companies or just other accounts on Instagram. And it's so hard to pick a name where, in our case, 4 people all like it at the same time. So that was arduous. And then COVID hits. And it's like, oh my God, what are we going to do? All right, let's just lay low. Let's play. Let's write songs. We can still hopefully jam somewhere. We got Zoom to kind of talk over band meetings and stuff. So we finally pick a name. We went with Fine Lions, and then we get a cease and desist letter from Fine Lion down in Texas, which was like, all right, if we're getting fucking cease and desist letters from someone in the States, like, let's not even play around because they'll sue the shit out of us. And then we chose another name. We ended up on Wide Isles. And then unfortunately, Katie, so she was working as a server in Toronto. She was living in a house that had flooded and had like a little bit of a mold issue. So she kind of got really sick from that. Over singing. She was singing, like, we used to practice like 3 times a week for 3 hours. I think she went from like, doing her theater gigs to like doing a shit ton of singing. And then again going, and then after that serving, and then she just never was able to really rest her voice. And it was, and it started to wear on her. And like a lot of musicians who sing, a lot of singers, they get what are called vocal nodes, which is essentially like tissue buildup on your vocal cords. Your vocal cords are basically just 2 thin sheets of tissue on the side of your larynx, I guess, or like your windpipe, your trachea, but they flap and just like the muscles surrounding it kind of change things. But again, when you're singing a lot and talking and all this stuff, and it's happened to Elton John, John Mayer, Adele, I think Miley Cyrus might have had the surgery already. It happens to all these musicians that are singing and touring all the time, but they have millions of dollars to pay for surgeries and do all this stuff and take time and all recovery time, and because I think it was like six months of not talking, something ridiculous after. Like, how can you expect someone, especially and she was continuing to work as in the restaurant industry, you got to talk. So it's really tough. And as an athlete, like, I totally understand the nature of injury, and it's so hard to see anyone who as their identity, they're living that. They're, as a singer, they're living that out, and then they're unable to do that to their fullest potential, and it's tough to watch. And it sucks that it kind of led to the inevitable us taking kind of a break as a band. It's just it's always tough to see someone go through that. So obviously I feel for her, but it doesn't make it any easier to watch, right? Again, anyone dealing with injuries out there, I feel for everybody. When I hurt my shoulder, it was really tough. Thankfully, I had some music to kind of fall back on. And in Katie's case, she's going back to school, and going for her social work degree, which is awesome. So good for her. And Adam's becoming a firefighter. Luke's doing his own thing. I'm doing my sales stuff. So, people move on. People do their thing. Maybe someday we'll get back together. But unfortunately, I don't think it'll be in the same capacity. Again, I think I put some stuff off in life to try and do this stuff. I'm pondering, pursuing school again, and that kind of brings us to where we are now. And with Luke and Ty and Adam, we're just kind of kicking the shit around, just playing a little bit. If that's what I can do with music, then that's great. If I'm able to kind of still have that feeling and have that catharsis and have tons of fun and speak that language again and do a little something here and there, so be it. Maybe it's not what I can do for a living. I wish it did work out. If anyone ever needs a bass player, guitar player, lead backup vocals or anything like that, I'd love to help out. Again, music is so special to me, and it's always been a part of my life. And I again, it's been there in times where I kind of didn't know what else to do. Guitar will always still be there. And, Alex and John are continuing. Check out Coda Facto out on Spotify right now. They just released their album. Really, really super solid album. Maybe John and I will continue to do some wedding gigs and stuff, make some coin here and there. I'm hosting open mics at the brewery. So, music's still alive and well in my life. It's not a total focus as it once was. Again, I'm happy to be doing the sales gig that I got right now, and if that allows me to get back to doing some more schooling eventually, then I'm happy to do that too. So everyone out there that is trying to do band, keep at it. It's tough. Again, like I said, bands don't usually fail. They just break up, and life kind of gets in the way sometimes, but you got to take care of yourself, and you got to be happy. You got to be healthy, and do what makes you feel good in any capacity. Like I said, if I'm able to, even just play guitar as a hobby kind of thing for the rest of my life, it's something that you can continue to do. You can always work at it. There's always something new to learn. Hopefully, someday I'll have a place where I can have my drums again, because I fucking love playing drums too. And, it's tough. I mean, again, anytime you do something creatively with a bunch of people, it's difficult, especially when they're your friends, because sometimes there's decisions being made where not everyone agrees. But at the same time, life does kind of transcend all that stuff, and it's one of those things where, yeah, maybe someday we'll be able to kind of come back to things, but at the same time, the experiences that we did have were amazing. I look back on it fondly. Some of our music is out there. The band did play on some of the songs on that Coda Facto release, actually. But yeah, I mean, Hamilton's a great music city. There's always something to do. Like I said, there's always open mics. There's always kind of stuff like that, and I want to continue to do it. Like I said, I'm going to do another another podcast soon about kind of my earlier influences and what got me into music and why I still do it and what I love, and you know, a lot of stuff I touched on today, but it's near and dear to my heart is the least I can say about that. And you know, I want to always play music. I want to be on stage in some capacity, you know, going forward. I love it, honestly. Like I said, you know, it's a shame that it didn't work out, because I truly subscribe to the artist position of I want to go on stage and I want to tear my chest open. I want to show you how my heart beats. I want to give you everything, and I want you to love it, and I want, because I love doing it. And you know, it's one of those things where you feel like you're meant to be up there, and it's comfortable and it's fun and it's euphoric, and you know, you ride that high for you know, hours and days after. And again, hopefully I get to do that again someday, but right now I'm loving what's going on. Again, little tidbits here and there. I'll let everyone know if we ever get to do a show. Everyone listen, hopefully you can tune in. Maybe we'll fucking record it. But anyway, you know, I thank you for listening today. You know, maybe it was a little bit of a bleeding heart moment today for me, but you know, thank you for listening. I love you guys. Again, check out the podcast on Instagram. Check it out on Twitter at the Bigmark Pod, at the Bigmark Podcast. Hit that bell, rate the podcast, subscribe. You can check us out on the Patreon, patreon.com/thebigmarkpod. Maybe we'll put some music up there. But again, you know, thank you for listening to me today. I love it. I love you. We'll talk to you soon. Keep on rocking in the free world, and doot 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 doot.